Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and my review of Smallville Season 3. Now, again, I'm just reiterating something here. It's been a while since I've seen the other seasons, but going off memory, this is my favourite season. It is. That could all change as I'm going through them right now. So, yeah, who knows what will happen. But for now, based purely off memory, this is my favourite season. A lot of that is down to Lex. Lex has a really good year with this one, with regards to his story arc. He goes through the ringer a bit, it must be said. But there's a really solid story arc for him. So he comes back off the island after kind of wrestling with his inner demons, and then comes back and kind of sorts Helen Bryce out, so to speak, which is a really, it's a dark turn for him because he's essentially killed her, but kind of gives her a taste of her own medicine. But it's definitely a much darker avenue to take Lex down. He has this story that takes place across Shattered and Asylum, and then is picked up again later in Memoria, and is kind of dealt with in little ways between those, in which basically his sanity is questioned. Now, it turns out that Lionel is the one responsible for that. He's kind of drugging him, making him appear as though he's losing his sanity. And it all ties back to the loss of his brother, which again is dealt with in Memoria, and which is such a strong episode. Memoria is certainly a contender for me for best episode of all time when it comes to Smallville. So yeah, again, I think season 2 had a lot of really great standalone episodes, probably more better standalone episodes, but I just feel like the episodes in this that are great are really great. Again, particularly those three, Shattered, Asylum and Memoria, and the season finale, Covenant, is absolutely brilliant as well. Probably one of the best season finales of the show, when we see Lionel going to prison and kind of having put a plan into motion to take vengeance on Chloe and Lex, and yeah, you just see people dropping like flies, and like Lionel's kind of orchestrated it from behind bars while he's having his head shaved. Yeah, it's a really kick-ass moment. But like I say, that story arc with Lex, where they question his sanity, and you see him in the asylum and he's in a straitjacket, and it's just like, it's painful to watch. And you know that Lionel is behind it, but there are moments there as well where you can tell that Lionel regrets it. He doesn't like doing it. Somewhere in Lionel there is love for Lex, and we see that. We see the reasons for why that love has kind of been pushed aside. Again, Memoria. It's a really big episode, Memoria, because it really highlights what happened between these two. You know, why it went so sour, why it went so bad. But because of that, we also do see that there is some love for Lex within Lionel. It's just he just doesn't let it out. But yeah, like I say, that the moment when he's looking at Lex through the glass while he's in the cell, kind of looking nuts, is it's quite a moment, it must be said. So yeah, like I say, Rosenbaum is absolutely top notch throughout this season. His performance is always great, but particularly with Shattered, what he does in that episode is fantastic. Kind of steals the show. Probably the most memorable performance for me in the season. But again, you've got your usuals: John Glover, Allison Mack always stealing it, Annette O'Toole always kind of owning the scene that she's in. Clark's story, his arc, so to speak, across this season isn't quite as clear cut as it's been in previous seasons. It's a lot more gradual, and it's a lot more tied to the other characters. So his arc is very much tied to Lex's arc. So like in a way, he is responsible for Lex getting his brain fried, and in a roundabout way, in the episode Asylum. But also, he's then put in a really difficult position where he kind of doesn't want Lex to gain his memory back, because Lex suffers memory loss as a result of this procedure that Lionel puts him through. And it's in Clark's best interests for Lex to not get those memories back, because if he did, he would know Clark's secret. So Clark's kind of put in this tough place where he's having to up his lying, so to speak, to Lex. He's having to be more guarded. He's having to skirt around issues a lot more, and that really kind of starts to drive this wedge between him and Lex, which will certainly skyrocket in season 4, but definitely here is where it really starts to solidify, because of everything that Lionel puts Lex through, and the ramifications that has with Clark, and the secret he then has to keep. It really does start to disintegrate the trust between these two men. So that's kind of Clark's arc. A lot as well is tied up with the caves once more. We get deep into the caves again, and kind of add a bit more to the mythology with Lex and Clark being these kind of prophesied people, Naman and I can't remember the name of the other guy, Sagith, I think. So Sagith and Naman kind of being these prophesied ultimate villain and ultimate hero, and I really love, there's an episode called Talisman. I love kind of Lex's twisted take on it, where he almost kind of paints the villainous character as a hero. It's like, when you think about it, he's kind of a hero, because like when you think about someone who's got all these powers, you need someone like this dude to keep him in check. So it really does feed into what we know of Lex in the future, and his hatred of Superman being this godlike figure, and it really gets under Lex's skin that someone is more powerful than him, and like he really does see himself as the man, as the hero of the story, as the man who keeps Superman in check. He's a necessary force kind of thing, and that we see that kind of begin here. We see that kind of rationalization from Lex. So that's all good stuff. Like I say, just across the board. The opening two-parter is fantastic as well. It's probably my favourite season opener. Again, that's probably got a lot to do with the fact that it is a two-parter. They're able to do a bit more with it, flesh it out a bit more. But we get our first proper super fight between Jonathan Kent and Clark Kent. And this is something that is again, it's going to have ramifications across the season, because giving Jonathan the powers that he needs to have that fight with Clark, because Jonathan goes to Jor-El. He needs to stop Clark because Clark's kind of on Red K. He's after the events at the end of season 2. He's in a dark place, and he takes the Red K to kind of stop himself from feeling it in a way. He disappears, goes off to Metropolis, and Jonathan has to go and bring him back before he does too much damage, too much harm, or just doesn't come back. He loves him, it's his son. So he gets Jor-El to give him the powers that he needs to go and bring him back. But obviously that's going to put a lot of strain on his body, a lot of strain on his heart, which will ultimately result in, certainly his first heart attack, but then obviously we'll get to season 5 when we get to season 5. But yeah, so I like that again, that it sows seeds that will be rewarded, so to speak. Rewarded. I'm not sure a character dying is a reward, but hey, it's just good sewing anyway. It's good writing. It's really good character arcs. I love that fight scene between Jonathan and Clark. I think because there's so much personal history with these two characters, because they're so personally invested with each other, I think when they come to blows like that and you see that super fight, it pulls you in a lot more. It's a lot more, emotionally investing, so to speak, than it would be for, like, say, a fight with the average meteor freak of the week. Really great. stuff there. Rutger Hauer makes an appearance, as well as Morgan Edge in that two-parter, that opening two-parter. Now, unfortunately, due to scheduling issues, he wasn't able to come back for the episode Shattered, because that character does come back. So they had to do a bit of a rewrite where he gets facial surgery and they recast. Now, I do think they cast pretty well. They recast pretty well. But yeah, it was just good to see Rutger Hauer in the show. I think he was a really good actor when he was given great material. Unfortunately, his career took a bit of a dive and he ended up doing a lot of straight-to-video action movies that were a bit rubbish, but it never diminished, what he brought to roles like The Hitcher or Blade Runner. And like when you give him a chance to shine, he always shone. So yeah, I really liked seeing Rutger Hauer anyway at the beginning of the season. Shame he didn't get to come back. But that character is really good as well, because it's very tied into Lionel's history, because we learn in this season a lot about Lionel and what he did with his parents. Basically, Lionel is responsible for killing his own parents, so that's like a big reveal for Lionel in this season. It's a bit of an arc for him, because it's in his best interests to stop Lex learning this information, to stop anyone learning this information, and this is a piece of information that Chloe needs to get hold of. And that's, again, we have this tie over from season 2 where Lionel is kind of keeping Chloe under the thumb, trying to manipulate her all the time, trying to play these power games in which he's kind of got her in his pocket, and he does all sorts to try and keep her there. And there's a really great kind of scene where, Chloe manages to get him to confess and gets a recording of this confession, which obviously will come into play with getting him into prison. It's kind of the smoking gun, so to speak, that'll eventually get him arrested. But part of Lex's journey as well in this season, in the back end of the season, is where he makes the decision to work with the FBI to bring his father down. And there's a moment there where you can see what a hard decision this is for Lex. Like, Lex does not like his father, but there is love for him there. It's his innate thing. He can't escape from it, and he can deny it all he wants, and he can kind of turn on his father. But there is always that undeniable blood connection there, and you do see it in Rosenbaum's performance when he makes this decision to shop his father in. You see that he's torn. He doesn't want to do it, but he knows it kind of has to be done. So yeah, again, great performances all around. Just Lana, once again, Lana gets the short end of the stick. Her story arc across this season, it doesn't really go all the way across the season. Again, she gets kind of crippled by this horse in the episode Shattered as a result of Lex's insanity kind of thing. So it involves this character called Adam that she meets in physiotherapy. And so when he's first introduced, there is a bit of intrigue there. Who is this guy? Is he just going to be a love interest that's kind of an obstacle for Clark? So is he just going to be a replacement for Whitney kind of thing? But then things start to creep in. We see that this guy ain't quite all together there. There are certain things, certain abilities he exhibits. So that builds a bit of intrigue. What's going on? Like, what are they going to do with this? But the problem is that it feels like the writers didn't quite know what they wanted to do with it, because this character is all over the place. So there are moments where it seems like he genuinely does love Lana. Like, it feels like he kind of... So he's this guy who's essentially been created by... he's been resurrected, so to speak, by Lionel. Lionel's used all his research and resources to resurrect this guy and turn him into a weapon, basically. And he wants him to go undercover, get close to Lana so that he can learn about Clark. But there's a moment when Adam chooses not to do that. He goes against his mission parameters, so to speak. He refuses. And that's like an act that kind of feels like it's done for Lana. Like he can't lie to Lana anymore. He doesn't want to betray her. He doesn't want to treat her this way. So he just doesn't do it. And that puts his own life at risk, because Lionel basically after that says, right, no use to me, get rid, kill him. So that to me says that this guy genuinely has feelings for Lana, and that's why he makes that decision. But then we get this other episode, Crisis, where he goes after Lana and like goes off the rails, ends up trying to kill her. So it's just, again, with Lana, it's like, I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this. Kristin Kreuk's a good actress. I like her. You know, I think she's perfectly cast for Lana. She has that great girl next door quality that you can understand Clark falling for. But the writing for her always seems just... They concentrate on Lex and Clark in such a great way, and those two, you know, that the relationship between them, what we know they're going to become, is such a focus and a centre of the show that it always feels like they're trying to fit Lana in there somewhere, and it just doesn't quite work. Again, they've tried, they give her something to do, they give her this arc, but it just fails, because again, like I say, Adam's an intriguing character at points. You know, you want to know where they're going to go with this guy, how long is it going to last, but then it's over like mid-season, kind of just after mid-season. So it's like, okay, we've kind of done that, we don't really know where we're going, we'll leave it there, put a pin in it, boom, done. However, I do prefer what they give her in this season to what they gave her in the second season. At least it has an ending, so to speak. At least it's a complete arc in that sense, that also kind of ties into other stuff and has ramifications in that sense. Whereas like with Henry Small, it was like all across the season and then just boom, abandoned, that's it, gone. So yeah, they do a better job, but again, it's still the weakest link. This is the season where we get to say goodbye to Pete, the boss, Ross. Yeah, like I say, I can take him or leave him. I don't hate the guy. Just, I'm happy that they get rid of him and bring in better characters in season 4. We'll get to season 4 when we get to season 4. But yeah, I'm fine saying goodbye to Pete. He gets a few moments to shine in this season. Like particularly when he gets beaten up, when somebody is trying to it makes it sound like, yes, I want to see Pete beaten up. What I mean is, he gets beaten up, he gets tortured in order to try and get what he knows about Clark out of him, but he doesn't give up Clark's secret. So, you know, that gives him a chance to shine, but it also highlights that, you know, the stress and the danger that he's in, just knowing Clark's secret. And that is the reason why he leaves with his mum when his mum leaves Smallville. So yeah, bye Pete, don't feel the need to come back anytime soon. There's a few really great standalone episodes in this season as well. Delete, Perry, Extinction. So Extinction kind of follows this guy who's got a thing against meteor freaks. He's executing them. That's an episode in which we see Clark get hit by a kryptonite bullet, which is ingenious kind of concept, which I'm surprised they didn't use more throughout the series, to be honest. But yeah, he makes an interesting villain, although he is kind of wasted a bit in Asylum. As much as I love the episode Asylum, which is kind of like the first supervillain team up we get in Smallville, which is, again, it brings villains back from season 1 and season 2, and then again puts the guy with the kryptonite bullet kind of thing in the mix as well. I feel like he gets offed in that episode a little bit too quickly. Kind of, he serves a purpose, like the other two freaks kind of use him for something and then do away with him, which is a shame, because like I say, the episode he was previously in, Extinction, is a really strong episode. Delete is one of my favourite kind of standalone episodes that, you know, doesn't necessarily tie into the wider mythology too much, and that is when Chloe is being targeted by this person who is able to program people to go after her. So we see all these people in her life that she's close to or should be close to, and they go after her. And it comes at a time where she's at a low point anyway, because she's on rocky ground with Clark after he's found out that she's been snooping into his life, this, that and the other. So you feel for her in a big way in that episode, and we get a really kick-ass fight scene between her and Lana, which is a really prolonged fight scene in the school where they're both really trying to kill each other. So yeah, well, Lana's trying to kill Chloe, Chloe's just trying to stay alive, but either way, it's a badass moment. It's a really memorable moment. It's one of my favourite moments of the season. Just yeah, that episode, really good stuff. And Perry, as I say, in which we get introduced to Perry White, played by Michael McKean, who is real-life husband to Annette O'Toole, but he's just a really good actor as well. A great actor for comedy. Perry is, you know, is a pretty comedic episode anyway, but it's just got some really great scenes, and a really iconic moment being the one where Clark flips the tractor halfway across Smallville. So yeah, I really love the introduction of Perry White. It is a shame they didn't use him more in the series. I would, you know, when we eventually get to Smallville in season 5, to Metropolis, I should say, in season 5, and we spend more time there, I feel like they could have brought Perry White back a lot sooner. He makes an appearance towards the end of the series, but yeah. Really great character. Love the portrayal by McKean. Just would have liked more of him. The weakest episode of the season for me is an episode called Hereafter, which has got some really great elements to it, some like strong elements to it, but it's just wasted on this kind of freak of the week story about this guy, this kid who can see people's deaths. He can see how they're going to die, and you know that it shows us some pretty cool visions, or a cool vision concerning Clark and his end, so to speak. But beyond that, I feel like the acting in it is really wooden. It's really stagey. It feels like the show going through the motions. It just doesn't, yeah, it doesn't grab me as an episode. And I feel like the awesome pyrotechnics at the end of it are wasted on it. And what is really wasted on it is putting Jonathan's first heart attack on the end of it. So like right on the end of the episode, they tack on this the bit where Jonathan has his heart attack. Quite frankly, should have been the beginning of the next episode, but yeah, it just, like I say, it feels wasted on this particular episode. But for me, that's the weakest one of the season. It's just a shame it has a moment in it that is actually quite important to the mythology of the show. So as I say, season 3 for me is probably my favourite. When I average the scores, for you know, as I've done, I could come up with a final score for the season. This one gets a 4.2 out of 5. Now, anyone paying close attention will realise that I gave season 2 a 4.25 out of 5, which is marginally better. And that's because when you look at the average scores across the board, it just season 2 got just a couple more episodes that had a slightly higher score, but season 3 is still my favourite over season 2, because when you look at the episodes that I gave the 5-star rating, I would take the 5-star episodes from season 3 over the 5-star episodes from season 2. Some great episodes in season 2, like I say, ones that I gave a 5-star rating, but they're not quite Memorial level 5. And there you go. That's my thoughts on season 3 of Smallville. I will be getting to season 4 at some point. Do let me know down below what you thought of this particular season. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.